Tokaido by FunForge. This is a game that's been around for a while, what, a year or two? I know I saw it set up in my friendly local game store, people were playing it, and was definitely attracted by the beautiful board, simple, elegant, but very nice looking, and also with nice art on the cards and on the various components. Tokaido is about the journey. The players are pilgrims slash tourists. They're visiting what appears to be some sort of generic medieval, old school, old style Japan. They're traveling around. It's nice to see that, we associate tourism with the present, but I guess back in the day there was no reason not to go around and enjoy nice cuisine, enjoy nice vistas and panoramas, collecting souvenirs, and most importantly, collecting memories. So the players will move along this track from the starting place to the end of the place, collecting memories and paraphernalia and other resources. And of course, it's pretty much a set collection game. So depending not just on what you collect, but which combinations of things you collect, you will score more or fewer points at the end of the game, and that will determine who the winner is. Tokaido. Let's see how it works. Here is the board for Tokaido. Very nice looking, very simple, semi-abstract, very long, unusual ratio. Here is the place where the players will start their journey and they will move along this track. They will stop at these special spaces, which are the inns, and the game will end when they reach that location. At that point they will score points. They will score final points. They will also score other types of points throughout the game. As you can see here, we have various locations. Some locations have a single dot, that is, they can accommodate a single traveler. Some of the locations have double dots, and you use the second one, which is out of the main strip of locations, only with 4 or 5 players, in which case the first player stops in the main spot and the second player stops in the second spot in the same location. If that player wants to stop in that location, of course, it's not mandatory. What do you do? Well, again, you travel, that should be obvious by now, and the way you do is particularly simple. Simply put, so when it is your turn to activate one of your character, you simply move your character ahead along the track until the character lands on a free spot that you desire, where you desire that your character will stop. So, for example, now it's my turn. Says my turn. I move here. I could move my character here, but I cannot move it on top of this other guy here. The order in which the players activate is quite simple. The character, the player with their traveling meeple the furthest from the ending space of this track goes. So right now, this is the furthest character from the end of the game, from the end space. Then suppose I decide to move in there, I interact with that space, then it's my turn again, because I'm still the furthest, and I could choose to go in a variety of spaces. Suppose I decide to go here, now it is this player's turn, and he decides to go there. Now the player decides to go here, and so on and so forth. When you're sitting on one of these spaces branching out from the main path, it counts as furthest from the end, further from the end than the corresponding space on the main track. So in this case, this guy goes first, because that is the last on the path. And this is how it works. So when players reach the space here, this is the inn. You record the order in which they get there. They all need to be there before the journey continues. These are special spaces. And after that, and after they interact with the inn, then the journey continues. And again, we follow the usual rules that the furthest player goes and continues moving like this. Now, so this is the movement, these are the movement rules, which are super simple, but what we want to do is to figure out now how you interact with the spaces, and that's really the meat of the game. When you reach this kind of space here, you have an encounter, so you simply draw a card from this deck and you gain the benefit associated with it. Sometimes you gain some extra coins. Coins are the currency in the game. Other times you gain other types of benefits. For example, you get other cards and so on and so forth. Now, in general, actually, the idea is that wherever you go, you're going to gain some resources, you're going to score some points. This is what I call a yay me game, because you constantly get new stuff and new points, but of course everybody else is getting them too, so you have to do that more efficiently than the other players. So this is what you do with encounter cards. You get an encounter card from the deck and you add it to your personal area. You will add several cards during the game, so basically you will be forming a tableau. This is for that type of area. This area here is the farm. Simply put, I guess you go on the farm and you work there for a little bit, so you gain some coins, which you can spend in a variety of ways. Here's the temple. You may make an offering to the temple, in which case you will place money here on the temple. As you can see, there is a symbol for each player, so it's not just like you're dumping it there. You want to make sure that the money that you put there counts, that the monks at the temple remember who gave them that money. So throughout the game, players will be adding money there, and as you can imagine, there will be points to be scored at the end of the game for the players that have placed money there in the temple. The player that has donated the most will score 10 points, and then we have 7, 4, and everybody else scores 2. And that's how you interact with the temple. You go to the farm, make money, go to the temple, donate the money. Then we have the panoramas. There's a panorama, a symbol that stands for a panorama. There's another one, and here we have another one. There are 3 panoramas that simply represent beautiful sights that you're traveling to see. As you can see, the panorama cards have numbers printed on them. The first time you stop on a panorama, you get the number 1 card in that stack, and you put it face up in front of you in your personal play area, and then the second time you get the second one, and then you get the next one. As you can see, you form a beautiful landscape. This is the smallest landscape. It only has 3 cards. There's another panorama that requires 4 for you to complete it, and yet another one that requires 5. The first player to complete a panorama gets the corresponding card that scores 3 victory points. It's worth 3 victory points. So the panorama cards, as you can see, this is the symbol for victory points. The panorama cards always give victory points if you complete a set before another player does. You also score that for the first player to complete a panorama. So that's for the panoramas. What else is left? Oh yeah, the bath, the thermal baths. So there are advantages in being very clean in this game. When you stop on one of those spaces, you draw one of these cards. They all score simply 2 or 3 points, so very reliable, and there will be a bonus at the end for the cleanest player, the player that has bathed the most often. Then we have the village, the space of the village. When you get there, you draw 3 cards from this deck. And as you can see, there is a cost that varies depending on the goods. The art and the name is interesting, but what really matters is only the symbol here. And you buy, again, you draw 3 cards. You can buy several ones if you can afford them. The other ones go at the bottom of the deck. When you buy a new card, you place it in your play area, and you're trying to form sets of different symbols. So, for example, these 2 cards, this one and this one, have the same symbol, so they could not go in the same set. So if these are cards that I acquired in the last couple of turns, a way that I could organize them in my play area could be like this, with these 3 parts of a set and this other one being part of another set, because again I cannot repeat cards in the same set. When I acquire a card from the village, it's a souvenir card. It's worth 1 victory point if it's the first one in that set, 3 if it's the second, 5 if it's the third, and 7 if it's the fourth. So actually, if I'm adding this card here to this set here, this one will be worth 5 points. So it's good to have variety to diversify as you're collecting souvenirs. How about the inns, those special spaces where players have to stop? Well, because they're gonna get a good meal, and again, they're collecting memories. They are eating good meals and try a lot of good stuff. The first player that stops there draws a number of cards from this deck of the meals. Actually, here's the full deck. A number that is equal to the number of players plus 1. The active player looks at those cards and can choose to purchase one. They are all worth 6 victory points, but as you can see, they cost different amount of money. So if you get early, you'll have a chance of getting the card that has the same functional value in terms of victory points for less. However, there is a bonus at the end for the player that spend the most. So there's the there's the dilemma. If you spend a lot here, then you may get the bonus at the end, but you don't have money to other stuff. If you saved a lot of money here and you were stuck with high cards, then you have the consolation prize at the end. So each player that stops at an inn has a chance of buying a card. The last player will only have a chance of 2 if all the previous players have bought 1 when it was their turn. So this is pretty much the basic idea. You go around, you take baths, eat good food, see nice panoramas. Also, you have Carter's cards. I don't recommend that you use them the first games because you will have to become familiar with all these effects. These Carters, you can assign 2 to each player at the beginning of the game. They choose one, the one that actually becomes their Carter. I love the fact that then you put a token of your color there. And each character has a different ability, different powers, so which of course that adds a little bit to the strategy of the game. You continue like this, collecting souvenirs and memories until all players have reached that space. At that point, you score the points for the temple. You also score some extra points. The player that took the most baths has the most bath cards. Take this card, which is worth 3 victory points. The player with the most encounters, the most friends, get 3 points. Player with the most souvenirs, get this card, 3 points, and the player who spent the most in buying food at the inn gets this card. You total all of the points the players have, and at the point the player with the highest total is the winner of the game. Call me shallow, but yes, I was originally attracted by the game because of the way it looks, because it's such a unique looking board, such an elegant and attractive board in its simplicity. And when I started playing the game, I felt a lot underwhelmed, or I felt I would be underwhelmed, because it just felt a little very basic. I'm behind, I'm gonna move the first possible spot, so I'm gonna go as many times as I can, because if I jump ahead a couple of spots, empty spots, then my opponents are gonna get a lot of stuff. What's the big deal? Also, I have to wait. And maybe the first time that you play the game, as players are familiarizing themselves with the mechanics and the scoring system really, because the mechanics are so simple, but seeing how you can score and what can give you what, then players may take a little bit of time making the decisions. And then if you jump ahead and you have to wait for 4 other players to take their turns, there may even be a little bit of downtime there. Luckily enough, as I started playing the game, my worries dissipated. First, again, downtime wasn't a problem once players were familiar with the scoring system. And gameplay was not as trivial as it appeared the first sight. Yes, I could just go to the next open spot, and that guarantees that I go the maximum possible number of times in the game, and I'm probably still gonna lose because I'm gonna get a little bit of this, a little bit of that. I'm gonna be mediocre in a lot of categories, not excel in anything, and then I'm not gonna score a lot of points. As other players that select a couple of possible paths to victory and invest on those will have done that effectively. They will score many more points. So yes, it is in a sense a very minimalistic game, because choosing to go 1 dot or 2 dots ahead can make a huge difference on what you get, on what you have relinquished, or you have decided not to get, because there's only a certain number of places where you can go and do certain things. And if you pass a temple a couple of times, then you're severely limiting your chances of putting enough offerings to be competitive there. But of course, if you put a lot of offerings there, you are leaving you're spending a lot of money and not getting stuff elsewhere. Let's just say there's only a limited number of stations where you can go for certain things, so you have the choice of when or what or where to go, therefore what to get. And the timing is so important because of the panoramas. You're also trying to get there before the players get there. Sometimes because you want the panorama before the players do, sometimes because at the end you get more choices of cards. So in truth it's minimalistic because maybe you're choosing between the next position, like the first possible position, or one ahead, leaving one dot in between. And that's already a very interesting decision, as strange as it sounds if you haven't played the game. It's really a minimalistic game in the sense that these small decisions have reverberations of considerable magnitude, precisely because you don't get to stop in that many places, you don't get to collect many resources. So even if you make many stops, you don't get to make many stops in each possible type of place: encounters, village, farm, etc., etc. So each decision, skipping a dot or two or not skipping any, it feels like it's a heavy decision. Probably has the wrong connotation, but it's a meaty decision. It's a decision that has enough reasons for you to pay attention, to be interested, to be intrigued by the design. I also like the fact that the game really is like an ecosystem, because there's no single thing that will score you a lot of points in general. Always, there's no strategy that seems to be foolproof. Everything is based on the balance between what you're trying to do and what you see the opponents are trying to do. The race for the right panorama cards is a typical thing. The order in which you land on the inn is another element. The fact that by getting certain locations, you're blocking certain locations also has a huge impact, and again, it gives you more the sense of a really organic, really interactive experience, because maybe find a way of getting a resource which I am not super interested, but kind of interested, but I'm particularly interested in taking that away from you or forcing you to go to another position, forcing you to go to a position right ahead of me which is not interesting to you, or to go where you really want, but now it's considerably ahead, so that's going to be a big commitment for you. So definitely there is this indirect element. It's not like you're attacking each other with mortars and bazookas and stuff like that. It's not a war game, but definitely there is an intense indirect element here of indirect competition for places, competition for resources, competition for getting there before somebody else does, manipulating the options that the other players have on where to land by getting in one place rather than another. Surprising design. I would say that with such simple choices, it has a pleasantly surprising level of depth. It's not like a heavy Euro, it's not a hardcore game in any case, but it's elegant in the sense that it has simple mechanics that result in what I would almost call disproportionately deep gameplay. Again, disproportionately deep based to how simple the mechanics are. There's much more than meets the eye. There is much more in here than you would see at first sight, and the game still remains very simple, very linear, very pleasant. Definitely a game that you can play with children, so it can be a family game. You can play with adults only. There is enough meat there for just playing with your gaming friends. It can be a gateway game. The new Settlers, instead of always playing Settlers Ticket to Ride Pandemic, this is a game that is in that category there in terms of complexity. And also has very, very interesting, very pleasant gameplay. So it has those nice qualities of gateway board games. The components are really nice. The art is beautiful all over. Every component looks great. The production value, when you're talking about material production, is also very good. The cards, with the panorama cards, a little flimsy. Yes, maybe they would be more pleasant if they were sturdier, but on the other hand, you're not shuffling them, so they're not gonna wear out all that easily, all that fast. In general, Tokaido is a nice looking game with very simple rules and gameplay which is, well, more interesting, deeper, and more organic than you would expect from such simple, such basic rules, which is last player moves ahead, get some stuff depending on when the player lands, and that's it. There is much more that emerges in gameplay from some simple premises, and that usually is a good thing. Tokaido, nice game by FunForge.